Welcome back, guys. Today we are just hanging out here in the shop doing some good old-fashioned shop talk. I posted up on Instagram yesterday and asked you guys to give me your best questions, and I had to sift through several hundred of them, but I picked out some of my favorite ones. We've got questions about the builds here in the shop, of course, but some really good ones kind of more about behind-the-scenes stuff, questions about methodology and how to accomplish certain things, how to learn certain things, do certain things, stuff that wouldn't normally make the cut in a normal build episode. We've also got questions about the build that I haven't unveiled yet, and some questions about me. You guys watch a lot of my content, but you might not know much about the guy on camera. So we're gonna run through all of it. I picked out my favorite ones. It seemed like a really fun way to close out the year. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's dive into it. Question number 1. 615 Cherry G8 asks, what is the one car you regret letting go of and why? And a lot of you guys asked this question, so it must be a pretty important one to you guys. There are two that come to mind, and they're two very different reasons. The first one is my E9. I had a 1971, if I remember correctly, 2800 CS. It was on air, and it was a really nice car. It was a car that we used to help bring back the vintage series from HRE. We actually proposed that entire wheel lineup to them and helped them bring it back to life, which was very cool. And the first set of those wheels were on that car. Overall, just a car that was so stylish, so much fun to drive, was fun anywhere you took it. It captured all sorts of attention. And part of the fun in it is that it was such a special car. Everyone had to walk up and say, what is that? What year is that? They had to ask about it. And that was fun. There's no doubt about it. The only downside is when I sold it for $20,000, I thought I was making out like a bandit. I thought it was an unreal figure of money for that car because between you and me, I paid $3,500 for it. These days, that car would be worth well over 10 times, if not 20 times that. In fact, I think it recently sold for close to 20 times what I paid for it initially. E9s are easily $50,000 cars these days, and some of them are well up and beyond that. And it's a car I probably won't ever get the chance to own again. They're just too expensive, and I don't see myself ever spending that kind of money to own one. So I wish I still had it. The second car would be my first hot rod, and that's because it's the first vehicle that I ever built from scratch. It has a lot of sentimental value to me, more than I thought that it did at the time. And it was a really fun car to drive. I daily drove it for a long time, and it was a handful, but it was a lot of fun. I know the obvious answer people would expect to hear is Rusty, but I don't have any regrets around selling Rusty. I think that it was the logical next move for the car. Eric W. Meyer has asked, what is the next build or the hopeful next build? Well, I have teased it already. You know that I already have it. It's sitting under the lift over here, under a cover. It went by for like 4 months in the shop in plain view. No one noticed that it was here, and no one has yet to guess what it is. You guys got kind of close when guessing the engine in that previous episode where I kind of showcased the box and a little bit of what was hiding in it. But so far, no correct guesses, and that's pretty exciting because it means it's unexpected, and I think you guys are really going to dig it. It should be a really cool project. I'm already pulling parts together for it. It's going to be a big one, and I think I'm going to reveal what it is right after the turn of the year. It seems like a really fun way to start the year, as long as you guys won't crucify me for introducing a new project while we're still working on other ones. I don't know. I guess we'll see. Prelude Justin asks, what tips would you give to a high schooler to get to work on cars like you are? Well, honestly, the simplest answer I can give you is just dive in and start working on your car. Start having fun. I took my cars to the high school parking lot in all sorts of weird and wild states, just trying my own thing, having fun, and trying to build my own cars and find my own way as a very amateur, quote-unquote, car builder. There's no better way to learn anything than to just dive in and try doing it yourself. It is absolutely my motto, is if somebody else can do something, then I can learn to do it too. Maybe not as well, but I can get there and at least learn the basics. And that's my suggestion. Get in there, dive into it, find what makes you happy, and then chase it. No other way to it. Merlin C. Harpy, I don't know. He's asked, what are the first power tools that you should buy to work on cars? Well, I guess that depends on what kind of work you're going to do on cars. My answer would be a good angle grinder, and a MIG welder. And I know that neither of those are necessarily cheap, especially a welder, but trust me, you can do anything with those two. They are the most powerful tools in the arsenal, and they are kind of the core basic tools to learn if you want to get into fabrication. And I assume that's kind of what you're getting at if you're asking me, because I'm not a technician. I don't do tech work. And if you're gonna do tech work, you probably just need like an electric impact or something. So, grinder and welder. Simple as that. Jacob is Jesus has asked, is there a single childhood memory that you have found formative to your passion? Now, I don't have a single childhood memory that I can go back and say, hey, that's the moment, that's where it all started. But I am really lucky because I have two father figures in my life. I have my dad, and he is a diehard car guy. He built plenty of his own cars back in the day, magazine cover cars, the fastest Camaro in the world once upon a time, Hot Rod Magazine's baddest car of the decade. And then I have my stepdad, who is the former host of Motor Trend and Car and Driver Television, famous for doing plenty of big smoking burnouts on national television. So to say I've got some huge influence in my life is an understatement. Both of them have helped me do incredible things, have been wonderfully supportive, and they both helped to mold the type of person that I am today. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Simple as that. Eric Schell asked a bunch of great questions, and the one I've chosen is, what is the most valuable tool that you added to your arsenal in 2021? And it's this Milwaukee battery-powered die grinder. I have sang its praises many times in many episodes, and I'm gonna do it again. This isn't sponsored. I paid full retail for it. I just love this thing. I use it all the time. I've got probably 100 different attachments for the end of it, and it is one of the most versatile tools I have in the entire arsenal. You definitely should add one to your kit. Ain't Dead Yet Garage has asked, what is one tool you want to add to the arsenal? And I've said plenty of times in previous episodes, I really want a big arbor press. And I'm pretty excited. I kind of sort of accidentally bought one the other day on eBay. I submitted a lowball offer and won it. And so here in about a week, arriving here at the shop should be a nearly 2,000 pound, 12 ton Dake compound arbor press. I am beyond excited to show you guys this thing. I'm excited to have it here in the shop. Look at me, I'm grinning ear to ear. Merry Christmas to myself. I probably don't need this thing, but it's going to be incredible. And when it shows up, we're definitely gonna have to see what we can crush with it, because why not? That's just how this is gonna go. So that's the latest piece. The next one is I would really, really like a CNC plasma table. I know there are some cheap options out there. I gotta do some more research and see what's gonna make sense, but that's definitely the next big purchase. Garage Faust asked, what's the story with the other cars in the shop, like the O2s and the Mini that is up there? They are not my cars. The O2s belong to my girlfriend. She's got a driver and then a stripped shell that will eventually become a full-blown project. And then the Mini that's tucked away up top belongs to my buddy Andrew. You will not see a Mini build on this channel. I appreciate them as cars, but I have no interest whatsoever in building one. If you want your Mini fix, you should either just follow Andrew, or you should check out Project Binky if you've been living under a rock. It's one of the best series on YouTube. The O2s will have some content eventually on them here, but they're not gonna be like a fully focused build episode type of thing. I will help her with those cars, but they are hers. They're her projects, and they're hers to do what she wants with. The Tybo has asked, what is the camber plate solution for the Ferrari? And we're gonna take a look at the car itself for this one, because there are no camber plates on the 308. The 308 is a double wishbone suspension, and we adjust the wishbones in and out in order to change the camber. Unlike the E36, which is a McPherson strut setup that uses a camber plate on the top, because that whole strut assembly is a suspension member. It's part of the suspension. So there's no camber plate. We don't need camber plates. We'll simply adjust the length of the control arms, they're adjustable, so that we can control what the camber on the 308 is. Aired Out B6 has asked, what is the hardest thing to really apply to the Ferrari in terms of engineering? And it definitely is in that same boat. The control arms proved to be very difficult to pull off. We built a lot of them. You guys saw it was a number of episodes. And a lot of those revisions came down to wanting to improve something that was already probably satisfactory. We're going to put this car on track at some point and undoubtedly come up with revisions to make. We're going to have to make improvements and changes, but ultimately plotting out that suspension in CAD and in suspension calculators and making sure that it was going to work and trying to hybridize completely customizing something while basing it off of mounts that are pre-existing was a challenge, and I'm excited to see how it works. It could be a complete disaster. I may have really messed this up. I don't know. I'm pretty confident about it, but then again, I'm not a professional. I'm just a dude in a garage trying to learn my way through this. Beige242 asks, what's the toughest part about making this your career? Well, I've been working towards this and what I'm doing right now for almost 13 years. I founded StanceWorks in 2009, and for a majority... You okay down there, pup? For a majority of that time, it has been an online automotive blog, and in 2021, I changed my focus towards YouTube content because that's where eyeballs are these days, and ultimately, I'm chasing my own goals and dreams, and this is part of that. But I guess to answer that question, what's the toughest part about it? It's a lot of work. This is a one-man show here, and that does bring us to another question. Mainframe Cycling asks, do you have a filming or editing crew for your videos? No. Everything that you guys see here is filmed, edited, produced by me. Now, every once in a while, I've got a buddy here in the shop that I might have hold a camera or is lending a hand wrenching on cars, but 99% of it I'm having to do by myself. And a lot of people kind of poke and prod at me saying, hey, why do you take so long to get anything done? Why is the build going so slow? So on and so forth. It's a lot of work to do all of this stuff, from building a car to filming building a car, which is a job in and of itself, to, of course, then editing an entire show twice a week. I spend probably 16 to 20 hours a week on editing alone. There's also the hosting, this type of stuff. There's the publishing, creating thumbnails. Anybody that does YouTube content probably gets it. It's a lot of work. Daddy Janky asks, modern BMW styling or engineering, which do you hate more? And it's very clear this person knows me pretty well. The answer is styling, and that's because I haven't even touched one of the new cars. I don't even know if I hate the engineering. I don't know anything about them, and I don't want to know anything about them because I don't want to work on such an ugly car. I consider myself to be a die-hard BMW guy. That's where I got my start. That's what all of my original builds are. And that's still what I kind of like identify as if somebody says, oh, what kind of cars are you into? Well, mainly vintage BMWs. And I liked BMW all the way up into, the mid 2000s. I thought they did a great job even with the E92. And honestly, I think the F80 is a pretty good looking car, although they did start to lose their way in some other models around that time. These days, I cannot figure out what BMW is doing. I just don't get it. They have completely lost their way. They've lost me as a future customer. It's guys like me that are entering that age where at some point I might want something, and I'll tell you what, it's not going to be a new BMW. Sorry. Alex E24 asks, would you ever build something more modern, like a 2015 and up car? It's important to look at the cars that I have built, because I've never even owned anything newer than a 1999. The Hummer H1 was the newest vehicle I have owned. New cars don't appeal to me very much outside of some with their overall design choices, but they're very complicated. There's a lot of computers in them. They're very hard to modify, and they're also really expensive to own. One, you have to buy them, and new cars are expensive outright, and then you also have to eat the depreciation on them, and both of those things push me away from wanting to own one versus most of the vehicles that I build, I wind up finding for cheap. I either find something that is somebody's trying to get rid of, or maybe it's got a blown engine or needs some work, or it's just old and undesirable, or somebody doesn't know what they have, those types of things. I wouldn't come to this channel expecting to see something new because I'm not likely to make it happen on my own accord. But you never know, I might partner with somebody, or maybe at some point I might get tired of driving old cars around and say, hey, I need something new and reliable, and we both know I'm not going to leave anything alone. Best Cars Media has asked, what is your first car and your first project? Now, my first car was a 1997 Chevy S10, and it was really cool to me because my stepdad had a 98 S10 Extreme, and it in and of itself was very much a car I looked up to and was excited about when I first got my license. So having a 97 S10 was just about the coolest thing. Now my first project is this car right here. Technically, I modified a couple of cars prior to this. My second car was an '87 Honda Prelude, and I put wheels on it, which doesn't really count for much. And then my third car was an '87 E30 325 IS that I did rear brakes and I think maybe a front wheel hub on. First time I drove it to school, a kid rear-ended it, totaled it, and I used the insurance money from that to buy this car right here. And when it comes to modifications, the first thing I did to it was coilovers. It's the first mod that I ever really did to a car, and I still have it 15 years later. Cookie843 says, what are your feelings towards the E36 after so many years of ownership and, quote, forever cars in general? I love this car and I can't ever imagine selling it. I don't really subscribe to the concept of forever cars because I've written thousands of articles in my life at this point, and I've heard way too many people tell me a car is a forever car, something they'll never sell, only to see it listed up for sale within a month of publishing an article about it. Very rarely do I see anybody hold on to their car for their whole life, and so I'm not gonna rule myself out. You never know what might happen, but I have no plans on ever selling this car and this car alone. It's a car I intend on keeping. I love this car. It has a huge amount of sentimental value to me. It's my first build, and for that reason, I'd like to hang on to it for years and years to come. Babe and Alex asked, why no black kidneys on the E36? And I kind of hoped that would be obvious because black kidneys are awful. Come on now, come on, we've got style here. No, for real, I think that chrome kidneys on this car look the best. It helps accentuate a very important part of the design of the front of the car. They never came with black kidneys, and I don't believe in blacking out kidneys. I think it's pretty much a bad look on every BMW ever made. I don't know why you'd do it. Just my 2 cents, go for it if you want to, but you're not gonna see that on my BMW. Boston Green M3 asks, what is a good entry-level welder? Now the MIG welder that I have is a Miller 211 auto set, and I would suggest it. I'm not familiar enough with a lot of welders to say, here's what you should look at, here are different model numbers, but I can speak from firsthand experience that this particular Miller has been fantastic. It's incredibly easy to use, it's really capable. It has both a 110 volt outlet plug and a 220, so it's very versatile. It is a gas welder, so you can hook up a bottle to it. It'll do everything that you need it to do. It's really capable. I have built complete vehicles with this thing. I highly recommend it if you can find one, and I'm pretty sure that there is a new modern version of it too if you want to buy one brand new. Alfredo Carpico has asked, who is your car hero? And I had to think about this one for a while. I don't necessarily have one single answer, so I want to tell you guys about a few different people that I think are worth looking into. The first one is Andrew Ritter. He's my former business partner at StanceWorks. He is absolutely perhaps the most talented person that I know, and I look up to him in every single possible way. He's one of the most inspirational people that I know, and everything that he does absolutely full of heart to the best extent he possibly can, and he does it with absolute conviction. You should check out his brand, Ritter Goods. He does a series of cartoon caricature artwork renderings amongst a bunch of other things, and he's chasing a dream of his, which I really appreciate and love seeing. I think you should check him out. He is who I strive to be in my own way. I think he does some incredible things. Second on that list, I'm going to go with Amir Benettu. Amir is an inspiration in the way that he is driven and what he tries to accomplish. He owns RS Future. He is a track coach, driving coach. He is a racing driver. He's a competitive person. He's the fastest guy I know on 4 wheels. And all of those things combine into someone that I look up to, someone that I find influence and inspiration from, and someone that I think you should check out. His Instagram handle is RS Future Amir. Third on the list, my former business partner, Riley Stair. He's now up in Sacramento, operating his own shop, RS Motorsport. And he is, without question, the most talented fabricator that I know. He is an inspiration for the skills that I want to develop and the type of fabricator I wish that I could be. I don't think there's any chance I'll ever catch up to what he's capable of doing. He has an absolute incredible level of talent, but it's worth checking out his work. He is an incredible builder, and he's very dedicated to his craft. And then last but not least, a YouTube answer. I really thought about this. I'm not much of a YouTube watcher. At least I wasn't prior to doing this myself. Over the last year, I found a handful of channels. I've looked into the types of things that I enjoy. And I'll give you two channels that you should check out if you aren't already. One of them you probably are. Adam Savage is Tested. I grew up watching Adam Savage on Mythbusters on Discovery Channel. That came out when I was a child, and it was very formative into the things that I'm into now. And I absolutely love the content that he puts together on YouTube. I love the passion that he uses towards everything that he does. I love his excitement. I think he's a very inspirational person, and I strive to use him as an inspiration for what I'm doing here. Now, on the other side of things, the more familiar side of things, I'm going to go with Jason Marburger from Fireball Tool. I think the work that he puts in on his channel is fantastic. His production value is huge, and while he's not an automotive channel, it's still fabrication, and I love the way that he approaches his projects. I love the kind of fun that he injects into them, and everything that he builds is so freaking cool. I think you should check out his channel. It's worth giving him a follow, a subscription, a like. Make sure you support creators like him because he's out there doing it too. And I strive to have my channel look something like his. He does such a great job, and while I'm not trying to do the same thing, I love his execution. Etsy Bomb asks, what formal training, if any, do you have? None. I went to college for a few years for photography before dropping out, partially at the suggestion of one of my own professors. And my parents were very supportive that I wanted to pursue StanceWorks full-time. So I moved out to California and have been doing StanceWorks ever since. As far as fabrication and the skills that you guys see on camera, I'm self-taught. I've had friends teach me things along the way, but I have no formal training, no schooling, and no classes, so to speak. My entire mindset when it comes to this stuff is dive in and learn it firsthand. There's nothing stopping you. Don't be afraid. Just pick stuff up and go. Don't be afraid to fail. I guarantee you, you will fail, but failing is an important part of the learning process, and before long, you can be doing this too, if you can't already. Some of you guys are undoubtedly better than I am at this hobby. Mariaga158 has asked album of the year, which I'm including this one because it's just so far removed from everything else, and it's definitely a question that is totally about my personal preferences of something completely non-automotive related. Album of the year, I'm not so sure. That's a tough one to pick, but I will throw out my favorite album of all time. It's Jungle's self-titled debut album. It is, without question, what will go on in the background anytime I can't decide what else to put on. It's been my top played album every year for years on Spotify. I'm probably way too addicted to it, but it's a good one, so make sure you check it out and support them because they're an awesome band. All right, guys, this one's a wrap. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for talking shop, and thank you for the great questions. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. It's a nice, easy way to wrap up the year. I'm excited for 2022 to roll in. We've got lots of cool stuff happening. Subscribe if you haven't. Leave a like. All that stuff helps me out. I appreciate the support, and I'll catch you guys in 2022.